Hello everyone. We will deliver the news that became a hot topic on June 29, 2023. Daniel Penny learned the chokehold that bleeped Jordan Neely in Marine boot camp. He likely didn't learn when to let go. Business Insider. A Marine black belt said letting go of Neely 30 seconds sooner could have saved his life. There is little training on protecting your opponent. Below are your comments. No one talks about the systemic failure of the local government for placing Neely back on the street time and time again. If someone is a threat or likely to be a threat, doesn't the justice system have responsibility to get them off the street? This brave Marine was doing what he was trained to do. Defend and protect others from imminent threats. He put his own life in danger by doing so. And people should be thankful for this. I'm a Marine and every Marine learns that move. Even call it the Marine Corps chokehold. Learned it in boot in '84 and thankfully I have never had to use it. If I'm in Mr. Penny's situation, I would have done the same thing. Kudos to the Marine for making difference. Mr. Neely was arrested 42 Tim. As an Army Vietnam-era veteran, I'll put it this way. They did not teach us how to wound or otherwise not use deadly force. Next news. 7 die at Panama City Beach. Sheriff, frustrated by ignored warnings. CBS News. Panama City Beach saw the highest number of deadly incidents linked to rip currents in the U.S. in June, according to the National Weather Service. Below are your comments. I was caught in a rip current myself when I was in my early 20s. It takes you out to sea. Keep your head above water. Realize that the rip current is not wide. Swim out of it when it weakens and swim parallel to the shore. Don't panic. Swim at a moderate pace, no need to race. Maintaining your inner. Lived in Florida all my life and never experienced a rip current, but I do know to 1. Go with the flow and 2. Once flow stops, swim parallel to the shore before trying to swim back in. What I did not know, which these pictures show, is there could be so many rip current flows so close together. Very scary. My concerns are more for the first responders that have to risk their lives in order to save the bleeps that are too stubborn to abide by the warnings. Little sympathy for the people that put the first responders at risk. In a perfect world, it should be that the first responders are not going. I feel for the families of these individuals. But people are going into the water when there is a double red flag, making it illegal to go in the water. Do not go into the water. And do not flip off the people who tell you not to go into the water. For those who die trying to rescue a family, well, when you take risks, bad things can happen. Men tend to be on the riskier side of life and pay the ultimate price. Next news. Rep. Eric Swalwell spent 2 days trying to get the Magellan sub to help look for the missing Titanic submersible, his spokesperson says. Insider. Rep. Eric Swalwell was trying to deploy the Magellan sub to assist search and rescue efforts for the Titan submersible. Below are your comments. How would getting the Magellan to the site have helped? Even if they found the submersible intact, a huge if all along, all the Magellan could have done is report finding it. They couldn't have brought it to the surface. Transferred passengers. Transferred oxygen. Nothing. I'm sure the intentions wouldn't have mattered. It was done on the first day. Must have been some of his donors on board. Either that, or he had a financial stake in it. Most of what politicians do falls under one or the other. California Democrats. I've lived here all my life. Nearly 70 years. And there's a reason I haven't voted, since 1976. Next news. Lawyer tied to bleeps by DNA left on drinking glass is accused of 5 more attacks. Associated Press. A New Jersey lawyer recently charged with sexually assaulting 4 women in Boston 15 years ago. Attacks he was linked to by DNA he left on a drinking glass. has been indicted on suspicion of 5 additional attacks during the same time period. Matthew Nilo, 35, was indicted Tuesday on 7 charges stemming from 5 attacks on 4 women in Boston's North End. According to Suffolk County District Attorney Kevin Hayden, the attacks happened between January 2007 and July 2008 while the victims were walking alone in the dark, either at night or early in the morning. Hayden said, "Below are your comments." His attorney is grasping at straws with the questioned the legality of taking DNA without a warrant. Doesn't he know that if he left the drinking glass out or abandoned it, it's perfectly legal to obtain DNA from it? Now it would be a different story if they say, broke into his locked car or there's gotta be a bunch more after. Guys like him just don't stop after a couple of years. Especially since he started so young. I wonder if his bail will be adjusted upwards when he appears in court in July. $500,000 seems low for all of the charges he's facing. I also wonder if the fiancé will stick with him in the light of all of these new charges. His DNA wasn't taken, he left it on a glass. It was more than just DNA obviously. Clearly they had some probable cause about him to even want the DNA from his glass. He was already on the investigators' radar. Russia's Lavrov says Moscow is in contact with U.S. about embassies. Reuters. The two countries' embassies have been severely and reciprocally scaled down in recent years as relations have worsened, notably since Russia seized Crimea from Ukraine in 2014. And especially after Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine last year. In what it calls a special military operation. The number of U.S. diplomatic staff in Russia is now around a tenth of its 2017 level of 1,200. And about half are Marines or other security guards. Below are your comments. Putin's actions in the last year have made staffing an embassy in Moscow nearly pointless. The Russian attitude is, what's ours is ours. And what's yours is negotiable. American actions have made it quite difficult for Russians to steal information, technology, recruit spies, and get their hands on Western goods to ship back to Russia for their friends. Russia is no longer a superpower. They only have nukes to use as deterrent. Their economy is smaller than some of the individual states of our country. They are just nuisance on the world stage. I kept trying to think who Lavrov reminded me of. Suddenly it came to me, Droopy, the cartoon dog. Donald J. Trump was indicted on multiple counts by the Department of Justice. Next news. Argentine death flights, plane returned home. Associated Press videos. Government officials and relatives of victims of the Argentine military dictatorship on Monday marked the return of a plane used in the infamous death flights, where the military would throw detainees alive into the sea. June 27. AP video, Victor R. Cavano. Below are your comments. These CIA wars in our banana republics and more are the cause of the refugee crisis we in Europe have today. People are fleeing the despots and dictators the CIA installs in their countries. My money says some guy at USPS did the same thing with our mail. Idi Amin of Uganda would just feed them to the crocs in Lake Victoria. USA has a history of support for despots and dictators. Study one of the earlier terrorists the CIA sent down south, Klaus Barbie. The WW2 German war criminal better known as the Butcher of Lyon, France. Never to see justice for his war crimes because the USA wanted him to continue his genocide of. I quote the first entry of the U.S. Army Fort Benning, Georgia School for the America's Watch list of most notorious SOA graduates as a document to understand this history. Next news. Next news. Americans in former Confederate states more likely to say violent protest against government is justified. 160 years after Gettysburg. The Conversation. Dead soldiers lie on the battlefield at Gettysburg in July of 1863. Corbis via Getty Images. Over the July 4th long weekend, people will pour into the small town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, to commemorate the 160th anniversary of one of the deadliest battles in U.S. history. The three-day battle left over 50,000 Union and Confederate soldiers dead, wounded or missing, and cemented Gettysburg's place in American history as the turning point of the Civil War. A few months after the battle, proceed. Below are your comments. There is definitely a difference in the views of the South's role in the Civil War between the North and South. I'd reckon that is a far greater divide than the few percent points differentiating whether political violence is justified or not. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government. Lei. The Declaration of Independence says that we not only have the right but we also have the duty to alter or abolish any government that does not secure our unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Lincoln said he wanted to preserve the Union of States, with or without slavery, as long as the country stayed whole. Next news. Woman at walk-in clinic demands a white doctor to treat her son's chest pains. Your tango. Some people have no shame. Below are your comments. My doctor is an Indian woman with a thick accent, but out of all the ones I've had, she doesn't try to rush you out the door within 5 minutes. She actually listens and asks lots of questions. When I was hospitalized, she literally ran in to see me before my colonoscopy to make sure I was okay and if What I read here is not about age, race, gender or national origin. What I read is a parent who did not put the potential urgent need of her child, not sure the degree of urgency at the time, ahead of her own biases. I'm sorry for the potential risk to the child's health. I don't care the color of my doctor. My special needs son has received wonderful care from all. That being said, I find it incredibly frustrating as a patient when I cannot understand a physician because a very thick accent. I have had to quit 2 doctors in the past because I didn't feel we sue. I went to a neuro appointment for migraines, and the doctor was Chinese and spoke with a very heavy accent. I went to a different doctor after that. It had nothing to do with his skin color or what country he came from. It was that I couldn't understand him because of his heavy accent. I needed tea. My husband is a retired cardiothoracic surgeon. When he was doing his rotation, a patient walked in with palpitations and chest pain and demanded a white male doctor treat him. The only other resident available at that time was a black female. The patient insisted on waiting 45 minutes before my. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, please thumbs up.